tonight.
Hillary Clinton talks tougher about my supporters than she does about Islamic terrorists.
Donald Trump is turning up the heat on the campaign trail against his rival. Laura Ingraham and Herman Cain are here tonight with reaction.
The world is by many measures less violent and more prosperous than ever before.
Then President Obama ignores the growing Islamist threat and claims the world is less violent than ever before.
We must have speedy but fair trials, and we must deliver a just and very harsh punishment to these people.
And Trump says America needs to get a lot tougher with terrorists. Judge Deneen Pirro and Jay Sekulow, they weigh in. All of that plus a preview of tomorrow's town hall with Donald Trump. Hannity starts right here, right now. And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, the general election is only 49 days away, and Donald Trump, propelled by a wave of positive polls, he's campaigning harder than ever in all the key swing states. And earlier tonight, Trump was in North Carolina. Let's take a look.
We have to, and we don't have any choice, replace a very failed and very corrupt establishment with a new government that serves you, your family, and your country. And that's going to happen. Hillary Clinton represents insiders. She represents the donors, the politicians, the big banks, the multinational corporations, and everybody getting rich off a very rigged system, and we know that. She represents everyone responsible for the decades-long squeezing of the middle class. The middle class in this country has been treated so unfairly as jobs and wealth move to other countries. Hillary Clinton is the chief emissary for globalism. And I'm not running to be president of the world. I'm running to be president of the United States. Hillary is all of a sudden going to get tough. The debate comes and she'll say, I want strong borders. I believe she mentioned the term extreme vetting. Where did you hear extreme vetting before? Only from me. Because I made up the term. I mean, I came up, I said, we need extreme vetting to come into our country. All of a sudden, she's got extreme vetting, and she's got all of these terms. Folks, it's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is because their special interest donors, they like it when our businesses move out because they own businesses. They move to Mexico. Lots of advantages for them to do that. No advantage for our country, no advantage for our jobs.
And here with reaction, the editor-in-chief of LifeZette, Fox News contributor, nationally syndicated radio host Laura Ingraham, and Fox News contributor, also a nationally syndicated radio host, Herman Cain. Look at this. If you go back 18 days ago, Reuters and others were predicting a landslide for Hillary, Laura. Now, 18 days later, they show this massive surge in electoral votes for Donald Trump. It's literally 243 to 242 in the Electoral College by their estimates and the polls that back it up. What has happened and where does this go?
I think pragmatism and common sense is winning the day, and I think Hillary's health stumbles certainly didn't help her at all. The more revelations we get about her dishonesty on the private server, the graft that was taking place with the Clinton Foundation, all leads voters to conclude we've had enough, more of the same. We're sick of politics as usual. Let's change this up. Let's switch things up with a businessman who has maybe a less ideological but more pragmatic way of handling difficult problems. And I think in the end, a lot of these voters might be swinging in that direction just because of the common sense that is involved in thinking things about refugees, Sean. When we know 5 million refugees displaced from the Middle East, a lot of them because of, frankly, failed policies of this administration. And we're supposed to now take in 100,000 plus people and think it's all going to work out well. I think people are very hesitant to do that. And Trump speaking to concerns such as that. And I think that's beginning to resonate.
You know, one of the biggest areas where we've seen a jump, Herman Cain, is among black and Hispanic voters. He's now up 7 from where Mitt Romney was with Hispanic voters. One poll actually had him at 19 percentage points for black Americans voting for Trump. I'm going to be with him at a town hall, predominantly black Americans. He's been to black churches. He's reaching out. Polls show that Hillary's black voters are switching to Trump. That was an article in the New York Post. Obama came out harsh yesterday, says he's personally insulted by black Americans who support Trump. Trump doing better than Romney with Hispanics. What has changed here? Is it the fact that the last 8 years have not been good to the minority community?
Absolutely. In addition to what Laura said, there's one other thing that's happening. Some people are afraid to go from Hillary to Trump, so they are undecided. But the American people are not stupid. Black people are not stupid. That's why you see a surge in those numbers, and that is a good thing. People are not believing President Obama when he says, as you showed in a previous clip, that we're safer and people are more prosperous. No, we are not. They are not stupid. They are not falling for it. And as a result, that's why you see a surge in Trump's numbers, not just nationally, but also among blacks and Hispanics.
Let's go to next Monday, 6 days from now, Laura. Hillary Clinton vows to come out swinging against Donald Trump. And, okay, I don't know what that means, but she says she's not going to take any insults lying down. Why do I suspect the insults are going to be coming from her?
Don't you half expect, Sean, that the Democrats are following around David Duke with a GoPro camera, hoping that he says something that's pro-Trump, because they can then put it in one of their, ad campaigns and say, oh, the KKK likes Trump. I mean, the whole thing is so obvious. For anyone who cares to spend 5 minutes thinking about this, when you don't have a record to run on, when you have no record of accomplishment, when your record is checkered with dishonesty and misrepresentations and ethical problems, then what do you have? What do you have to do? You say, well, I sat down in the Situation Room and I flew around the world and the whole world's in flames, at least in the Middle East. What does she have to say? She has to say Donald Trump is this, that, and the other thing. Donald Trump's a racist. All those things. That's
racist,
all she
sexist,
has.
Misogynistic, homophobic, xenophobic,
so
Islamophobic.
Sean, back to the debate. I was just going to say, Trump has to remember the great moments for Reagan in these debates when they tried to do similar things to Reagan. He was stupid. He wasn't smart. He has to be like, there you go again. I mean, is that all you have? Really? That's the debate here,
See,
Hillary?
I agree
that
with
I'm a bad person?
See, because Hillary's going to do this, and I don't think this is hard to figure out. I would anticipate this is she can't run on Libya, she can't run on Egypt, she can't run on Iraq or Iran or Afghanistan or Putin or North Korea or China. Okay, then she can't run on Obama's economic policy, which she says she's going to continue. So she can't run on honesty and trustworthiness. So what's left? Ad hominem attacks. What she said, basket of deplorables, that'll come up. The key for Trump, Herman, I think, is as she pokes and prods and aggravates and annoys and tries to piss off Trump and irritates him, she's going to try and get a reaction, get him to roll his eyes like Al Gore or get him to huff and puff. And I don't think Trump's going to fall for it. If he does, I think it'd be very foolish. He needs water off a duck's back, an impenetrable shield. Nothing she says can bother him, and he comes out a winner.
She's going to come out swinging, but the only thing that she comes out swinging with are names, name calling. And you're right. He doesn't fall for it. She's going to look very weak because he has put more substance on the table in the last several months than she has ever talked about. So, yeah, it's only up to name calling to try to provoke Trump such that he comes after her, and then the liberal media is going to try to turn it into a sexist attack. I don't think it's going to work because I don't think Trump is going to fall for it.
God forbid Donald Trump walked over like poor Rick Lazio and tried to hand the poor woman a piece of paper. The damsel in distress couldn't handle the stress of somebody getting in her space and her grill a little bit, which I thought was absurd. All right, you agree, Laura? I mean, is that the biggest challenge? Beyond that, I would think that with all the speeches and interviews Trump has done, he doesn't really need a lot of prep. I think to cram his brain with facts and figures would be a bad strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, the gotcha questions. You know what I would say when they start pulling the gotcha questions? Well, the Secretary of Defense of Poland, Donald, you know who that is, right? I mean, he needs to say something like, look, I'm sure Hillary knows all the names of all the government officials of every country on the planet. Because, frankly, she was probably going around, flying around on our dime, asking them for donations to Clinton Foundation. But what I know is I know solutions, okay? She knows all the minutia that I can learn with my top staff and all the focus we're going to have. I'm going to solve the problems for America. She can pass the pop quiz, but I'm going to pass the most important test, which is leadership and competency and delivering results for the American people. So he can't get sucked in to say, I don't know. Like, he's not going to know all the minutia. If they try to pull the pop quiz, I think he can turn that on them really easily.
Agree with that. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. More Laura Ingraham, Herman Cain right after this, and also coming up next tonight.
We should all understand that ultimately our world will be more secure if we are prepared to help those in need.
That's Obama at the UN earlier today, ignoring the growing Islamist threat, and actually said the world is safer than ever before. And he also was talking down the U.S. He's going out the same way he came in. And later tonight.
We must deliver a just and very harsh punishment to these people.
Donald Trump saying it's time for America to get a lot tougher with dealing with radical Islamic terrorists. Judge Jeanine Pirro, Jay Sekulow weigh in on that and much more tonight on this busy news night here on Hannity.
We have caught this evil thug who planted the bombs. Thank you, law enforcement. Thank you, police. He will be represented by an outstanding lawyer. His case will go through the various court systems for years, and in the end, people will forget, and his punishment will not be what it once would have been. We must have speedy but fair trials, and we must deliver a just and very harsh punishment to these people.
Donald Trump talking about how we need to be tough on terrorists. Here now, the author of the brand new book, Unholy Alliance, The Agenda Iran, Russia, and Jihadists Share for Conquering the World. Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, and Justice with Judge Jeanine, host right here on the Fox News Channel. Welcome, both of you. Judge Jeanine Pirro. Well, that's a pretty interesting book, by the way, because I think you're right. I mean, if you look at the alliance, Iran, Russia, radical jihadists, they on two of the senses anyway, they want to advance a caliphate that's worldwide domination and Islam as the main religion, and it's convert or die. How does Putin fit into that, Jay?
Well, here's what you've got. You've got an alliance that hasn't ever existed before, and that is Russia and the Iranians are working together. You had Russia launching aircraft out of Iran into Syria, which, by the way, violates the Iranian constitution, which I have in the book Unholy Alliance. There's an interesting aspect of this, Sean, and that is, and I think Donald Trump actually got this very much correct, the Russians historically, and you go all the way back to Benjamin Disraeli, Prime Minister of Great Britain in the 1870s, said, the Russians understand power, that you don't arbitrate. They understand power. And he said, look, diplomacy can be power, but there has to be power behind it. And we're not projecting power. Thus, the Russians, the Iranians, look at our weakness, and they project their strength, and they're working together, and that's where this unholy alliance, including Syria, involved in that as well. There's a lot of different parts moving right now, but I think we're probably on the jihadist issue, the worst in our lifetime. I think this is worse than 9/11 as far as the level of this.
And Judge Jeanine, this has happened with Reagan. I mean, he compared himself to Carter. Carter had shown weakness. The Iranian hostage crisis, obviously the most prominent. And the world had the feeling that if Ronald Reagan won, that the world was going to change dramatically and America wouldn't be weak and timid anymore. And the world was safer as he built up our military. And the concept of peace through strength was proven to be effective.
Absolutely, and I think that's what Americans are feeling right now, and I think that's why you're seeing the polls changing dramatically, and how Donald Trump is staying strong and how he's starting to possibly turn previously blue states red. I mean, Americans are fed up with this. They're fed up with hearing the FBI knew about someone, the FBI knew that this guy was stabbed someone and the grand jury didn't indict, that nothing happens to these people. These wives disappear. We never hear about any of this ever again. And, you know, the whole justice system, the military system, Americans are disappointed. It is time for a change. I don't think we've ever been more right.
I honestly think that the issue of not saying radical Islam, Jay, and there's such a difference between Hillary and Donald Trump, the issue of vetting refugees and allowing people that come from cultures that directly clash with our Constitution, that Americans fundamentally understand that we have to know if they're coming here to become American and assimilate, or do they want to proselytize and bring their value system, which is the opposite of ours, with them. And I also think the issue of the wall. I think it's now clear to Americans that there is a clear and present danger with radical Islamists. How many more incidents do we need to prove it?
Well, I mean, look, the Israelis have utilized both, as you said earlier, they've used profiling successfully, by the way, and they have a wall. And they have a wall to protect their citizens. Now, here's the issue, Sean, that I think is front and center on this. I think you're exactly correct. I think what Judge said was also absolutely correct. And that is, if you talk to even young people, people that are just starting their families, young kids, their number one issue, the issue that they are thinking about is, can I walk down the streets of my town without worrying about a jihadist attack? Can I go through an airport not worried of looking over my shoulder that I've got to be prepared? Where are the exit ways? When I go into a movie theater, these are the things people are worried about right now. And just think about this. Right. Look what the last 8 years of Barack Obama's leadership has done to the Middle East and to our country.
And then all the euphemisms.
What 8 more years would be.
You know, watching the governor of New York, you know, the mayor of New York, Comrade Bozo de Blasio, this was an intentional act. I mean, like,
I have never heard that before. I've been in criminal justice for 30
What's
years.
What's an intentional act?
No kidding. You think somebody who put together a pipe bomb and blew up, and that's
But they're threading this needle, and they're writing this razor's edge, and it's twisted and contorted.
Playbook. It's like Benghazi was due to a video. It has nothing to do, in their opinion, with the terrorism that is coming for us. And so in order for them to protect their positions, they have to say, we're defeating it, and this is just a little of this and a little of that. And I got to tell you, Sean,
it sounds insane.
It is insane. It's insanity.
It is.
But when we've got these guys beating their wives, you've got domestic violence, you've got them hating gays, and we are bringing them to this country. We think they're going to assimilate. They are not. And what we've got to do is they've got to lose their citizenship.
This is a clash of cultures.
Exactly.
And we either want to be a constitutional republic or we don't. And if you're coming from a country that said, if I was married to you, I could tell you how to dress, tell you whether you can go to work or school. You can't drive a car. Right. By the way, gays and lesbians get killed. Christians and Jews get persecuted. But Hillary takes money from those countries. Tens of millions.
Okay, she doesn't believe in the Constitution. She doesn't believe in the First Amendment. Look at UN Resolution 1618, where they can limit your speech about someone's religion. Obama, maybe his last speech at the UN, but he started by saying, you know, no one who criticizes Islam should be allowed to be a leader of the future, whatever that line was. And what we've got are people who hate us, and we let them in. We're suckers.
You know what? I can see a 9/11-like commission report after the next big attack, Jay. And you know what they're going to mention? They're going to mention New York, and they're going to mention New Jersey and San Bernardino and Chattanooga and Fort Hood and Orlando, and they're going to say they were at war with us. We weren't at war with them again. We're making the same mistakes we made in the lead up to 9/11-01. We have a pre-9/11 mindset under Obama and Hillary.
And Sean, we've got the paradigm is absolutely backwards. The president and his administration starts with the proposition that these are not acts of terrorism, these are intentional acts. No kidding, by the way. But they're not acts of terrorism. Prove that it is. It needs to be turned around. When these incidents happen, a bomb going off in New York, assume it is terrorism and then work the facts. That's how you have to do this. But the entire paradigm has to shift. And until we acknowledge, and I say this in the book on Holy Alliance, until we acknowledge that we're at war with radical jihadists, the fact of the matter is we will lose this war. We can win it, but we've got to have the will to take it on and call it what it is. These are radical jihadists.
Guys, good to see you both. Appreciate it. Up next tonight here on Hannity.
The schools are failing. The jobs are leaving, and millions are trapped in poverty. So to the African American community, I say, vote for Donald Trump. I will fix it. I will fix it.
Donald Trump, he continues his outreach to African-American voters. Up next, we're going to have a preview of our town hall with the GOP nominee tomorrow night in Cleveland, Ohio. You don't want to miss that. Stay with us.